Hi, welcome to an introduction to Kamailio presented for TADSummit 2020 in Asia. Although we're not really in Asia right now, are we? This is an online forum. I'm very honored to be a part of this presentation today, and I look forward to introducing you to the wonderful software called Kamailio. Kama what? Kamailio is an Hawaiian word, and it means to communicate. So, who am I? My name is Fred Posner. I'm a VoIP consultant with LOD Communications and the Palmer Group. I'm based out of the United States in Florida, so I get nice, beautiful sunshine to illuminate my office here. And you can reach me at qxork.com. For today's agenda, we're going to be discussing that software named Kamailio. We're going to discuss what is Kamailio, what isn't Kamailio, why you would use Kamailio, some of the key features of Kamailio, deployment examples, as well as how you can use Kamailio to both scale SIP and RTC, secure your SIP and RTC, and integrate with a new product at LOD that we have called APIBAN. So first of all, what is Kamailio? Kamailio is a SIP proxy server, a SIP registrar, SIP location server, SIP application server, dispatcher, and a WebSocket server. Now you'll notice in all of these aspects you'll see the word SIP, and that's because Kamailio is all about SIP. Kamailio is an open source software since 2001, specializing in handling of SIP protocol. When used, you deploy Kamailio to help you as part of a unified communication platform. Kamailio can help you secure that platform as well as enhance communication, whether that be an enterprise, very large phone system, or something where you would like to integrate, let's say, WebRTC to traditional phones, or just facilitate WebRTC communication among each other. If you are dealing with communication, Kamailio can help you set up those calls. Now, what isn't Kamailio? Kamailio is not a SIP phone. It's also not a media server, and it's also not a back-to-back user agent, which we just call B2B UA. So some of those products can also be open source software. Very popular examples are the software Asterisk and FreeSWITCH, which are SIP phones, media servers, and B2B UAs. Now, why would you use Kamailio? Now, this is a topic in of itself. And back in 2017, at Kamailio World, which is hosted yearly in Berlin, I gave an entire 30 minutes on why I love Kamailio and why you would want to love Kamailio as much as I do. And I have a link to this that will also be posted online. The too long didn't read version of that is Kamailio is open source, and it has always been open source. It has a very small footprint. It's fast. What Kamailio does with SIP, it can do so extremely efficiently and fast. It's modular, so you can load exactly what you need to get the job done and nothing more. And it plays well with others. So when you're trying to communicate with other platforms that might be proprietary, Kamailio will help you facilitate that communication. At its heart, Kamailio is a very fast and powerful SIP server. Based off of RFC 3261, Kamailio easily handles registrations, locations, SIP proxying, SIP applications, and redirection. SIP routing capabilities include stateless and transactional stateful SIP proxy processing, serial and parallel forking, NAT traversal support, and that could be local and endpoint, load balancing, least cost routing, and high availability. With Kamailio, you can build globally redundant, highly available systems. For transport support, Kamailio supports UDP, TCP, TLS, and SCTP. We support IPv4 as well as IPv6, and we can gateway bridging between all of these. So you can use IPv6 to IPv4 bridging, as well as UDP to TCP or TLS bridging. We offer multi-homing and multi-streaming with SCTP, as well as WebSockets for WebRTC. Asynchronous processing includes TCP handling, SIP messaging processing, inter-process message queues, and a communication system, as well as an internal distributed message queue unique to Kamailio. Secure communication includes digest SIP user authentication, access control lists, using TLS to secure SIP communication, handling of SRTP for secure media handling, and many authentication models, whether that be your internal lookups for anything from Active Directory to an API lookup, as well as database and hard-coded. For IP and DNS, we have serve records as well as NAPTR, say that 3 times, DNS lookups, as well as SRV DNS failover. We have DNS sec support, enum, an internal DNS cache, right? Because DNS is the source of all of life's resolutions and problems. So if DNS went down, there is an internal DNS cache to help you through that. IP level blacklists and topology hiding. For accounting, you can use event-based accounting, extremely configurable, so you can add accounting details. We have multi-leg accounting. Storage can be done to a database, JSON, radius, diameter. People are sending this information to Kafka if you wanted. We can also integrate with prepaid agents. And there's much, much more, right? So we have an RPC control interface that allows you to connect and control Kamailio as you would like. Rich communication services, remote monitoring, internal APIs. We support a multitude of databases, anything from no databases such as Redis to Maria, MySQL, Postgres, Oracle. And we have IMS integration. Entire days can be spent discussing that, and extreme scalability. One of my favorite features of Kamailio is from the HTABLE module. Now, HTABLE is an internal shared memory storage or cache system that's unique to Kamailio. You can replicate this information across multiple Kamailios using the distributed messaging queue that comes with Kamailio. And again, it's module based, so you only need to load this if you are going to use it. It's phenomenal for storing information or caching information that then results in even faster lookups. And when we start talking about scalability, HTABLE is an extremely important part of that scaling and even security aspects. Now, KEMI stands for Kamailio Embedded Interface. And KEMI allows you to use your own scripting language to write SIP routing. So Kamailio has a unique scripting language that if you script in any language, it's nothing difficult. It's basic, but it's powerful and it's fast. But if you didn't feel like getting into learning the configuration file that comes with Kamailio, you can write in your own scripting language. So this opens up the world of Kamailio and the world of SIP routing to web developers that know Python, Lua, JavaScript, Ruby, and even Squirrel. And you can write any of these routing blocks in the language and use the whatever features of that language you'd like to use to help make your routing decisions. KEMI came out in the version 5.0 of Kamailio, which is just a few years ago, and it's just phenomenal. And again, it allows you to keep your own language and still run Kamailio. You can also reload Kamailio without having to restart Kamailio with KEMI. So it's fantastic. Deployment examples. I'd like to discuss some different ways that you can deploy Kamailio. This is in no way a complete list. Kamailio can be used however you would like to use it. So this isn't an inclusive list of you have to use Kamailio in this. This is just some examples of where you might want to use Kamailio. First example I would like to share with you is having Kamailio as a SIP edge router. So in this aspect, you have Kamailio sitting in between the internet and your internet connected PBX. And you can have Kamailio just handle security, for example. And it could block off, let's say, SQL injection from reaching your PBX. You can also offload functions from your PBX to Kamailio. So as your PBX gets more inundated with running registrations or options to try to keep all the NAT endpoints together, you can just offload, let's say, all of your users to Kamailio, because Kamailio can handle hundreds of thousands of registered users, and then have your PBX just handle, for example, media calls. So Kamailio will handle all the registrations and location servers, and you can end up getting a lot more performance out of your PBX by simply offloading those types of functions to Kamailio. In this same type of example, we can also showcase some of the bridging that Kamailio can do. So for example, you can have Kamailio handle IPv6 and IPv4 connectivity for your system, and require TLS communication, for example, to your endpoints, and maybe SRTP. And then on the back end, since you're already in your network, you can just go simple IPv4 and change it from TLS to UDP, as well as from secured RTP to just regular RTP. Remember that SRTP and TLS require a lot more processor power and connectivity because of the handshakes involved and things like that. So you can end up keeping your PBX just UDP and just RDP, getting more performance out of that, and having Kamailio act as a bridge between the endpoints, thus allowing you to be secure yet still highly performative. Sometimes you want to have multiple PBXs, but you still just want to have one public endpoint. This is a great example for when Kamailio can really help you with its load balancing and dispatcher. So in this aspect, you have multiple PBXs that sit behind a Kamailio, and they can just be totally sealed off from having any SIP connectivity outside of the Kamailio endpoint. All traffic would go to Kamailio, which would then decide what PBX to send to, as well as up to you as to whether or not you want media to be relayed through a media proxy as well, or just have media, your RTP streams go directly to the PBX. That aspect is your call. In this case, if you lost one PBX, for example, you could then have Kamailio reroute any traffic to one of the remaining active PBXs. So the dispatcher also allows for failover, which is phenomenal. By using this information, you can also have Kamailio globally redundant. So if I have multiple data centers, I can have multiple PBXs behind Kamailio in each data center. Kamailio would connect to the internet and function traffic to the PBXs, just like in the previous example. However, in what you end up doing is Kamailio can also talk to the PBXs behind the other data center as well as to each other. So if a call comes into one Kamailio through that distributed messaging queue, I can share information with the other Kamailio. So if I'm, for example, counting simultaneous calls or calls per second, I can use that data across multiple Kamailios. And this way, if one Kamailio or one data center should lose connectivity to the internet, you still have an entire functioning deployment, and that gives you global redundancy and high availability in those aspects. That same type of distributing messaging queue, as well as the stateless features of Kamailio, really ensure high availability within the data center as well. You can have an active or an active standby pair of Kamailios to help you maintain, extreme availability for your deployments. Scaling is something that's extremely important, especially today when you're seeing a lot more traffic spread across instead of people working from offices, and scaling services that you did not expect to have outside of your office has become a lot more important for us. Some key features of Kamailio that really help you with scaling is the HTABLE module that I discussed just a little bit ago, Dispatcher, which was in those last examples, where you can choose what endpoint to send traffic to, as well as handling failover. Redis, our integration with Redis really helps you to get information very quickly, and the distributed messaging queue that comes with Kamailio that allows you to share that information across multiple Kamailios. When we talk about scaling, it's important to also realize what you can do with one Kamailio. One Kamailio with, let's say, 4 gigs of memory can easily handle 300,000 subscriptions. So 300,000 endpoints, including presence and location services and registration, can easily be handled by one Kamailio with just 4 gigs of RAM. Now, if you're using as a load balancer with the dispatch module, in a stateless mode, one Kamailio could handle over 5,000 call setups per second. So when we talk about scaling, when you can spread that out, you can handle carrier services. And there's a lot of carriers that utilize Kamailio because of the ability to handle this type of traffic. So for scaling, by using the distributed messaging queue, by sharing state or sharing call information using the distributed messaging queue, and keeping that kind of information in HTABLE among multiple Kamailios, and having a Kamailio that can handle this much traffic really allows you to scale as needed. By using that dispatch module, when it comes to media calling, you just simply add more PBXs as you need. Kamailio can just reload the dispatching table and now spread those calls among, let's say, instead of 2 Asterisk servers, 20. So you can just quickly jump up in production, and it shouldn't affect anything because all of your clients are still connecting to the same Kamailio endpoint. And then from there, Kamailio is just choosing where to distribute those calls. Security is a great feature of Kamailio, and using it as a SIP edge router is normally my most common deployment. Some built-in modules within Kamailio include the permissions module, the Pike module, SIP inspection that comes directly from the core, as well as a GeoIP, for example. Now, you can choose to block by user agent. With geographical IP, you could block by country, or just whitelist by country, only allow certain regions to enter into Kamailio. With HTABLE, you can count calls per second, or with the rate limit module, you can do rate per second calculations based on timing. And you could go, okay, you know what, you've exceeded too many calls per second from one IP, I'm going to block you. The Pike module does that per IP based on an anti-flood detection. So if too many requests come in from a specific IP, and you can tweak this as needed, it blocks that traffic for X amount of seconds, preventing some denial of a service attacks. SQL injection is coming through SIP all the time. It's common to engage with SQL backends, of course, and so if there's SQL there, somebody's going to try to inject SQL into it. And so you can scan through the SIP message, and if you notice that, hey, look, this is clearly someone trying to do a SQL injection attack, you can drop those calls, and you can block that IP from making anything that you'd like. And you can choose any type of blocking that you wish or that you'd like. It could be by user agent again, which gets some of the script kiddies away. You could block by specific users, specific IPs, or specific criteria that you see. known phone numbers that are bad or anything like that. Earlier this year, LOD Communications launched APIBAN. We have more information available for you at our website for APIBAN, which is apiban.org. And from this site, you can request a free API key. And that's all APIBAN really is. It's an API that allows you to get bad IP addresses. These are IP addresses that are attacking SIP honeypots that we have throughout the globe. And when they get attacked, they get loaded into the APIBAN system. And this API will either let you query specific IP addresses or pull IP addresses in a batch of active ones, 250 at a time. There's generally around 300 IP addresses or so that are active at any given time. We have two ways of integrating this very easily with your systems. One would be in Kamailio directly. There's an example of how to use HTABLE to load this information into memory. So when Kamailio gets a request from one of these blocked IP addresses, it immediately drops the traffic. And another way would be to use a Go client, for example, on any Linux machine. You could just drop in the Go executable or build it from source yourself on any operating system that you'd like, and then that would integrate with IP tables. Again, it's a API though, so if you wanted to integrate it into your own system whatsoever, I know Dave Horton with Drachio has integrated it with Drachio, and so if there was another way that you would want to integrate it yourself, please let us know. If you give an example, I'd be more than happy to put it up on the site. So that is APIBAN. Again, it's a free service, free key. We have no plans to change that, and we'd love you to protect your systems from attack. With that, I'll remain available for questions. You can reach me on Twitter, email, or however. TADSummit is going to be asking for questions. You can learn more about Kamailio at kamailio.org. We have a very active user base through email. There's an IRC channel. We just launched a Matrix channel as well. And you can contact me directly through qxork.com. It's been a pleasure talking with you, and I hope you're having a great time at TADSummit. Thank you so much.